Hi, welcome. So we're going to continue looking at the basic data structures in Python. We have already looked at strings, numbers, lists, and in this video, we are going to go on to look at tuples as we continue to build the building blocks towards being able to do great data analysis with Python. So let's just go straight to the computer and look at tuples. So here I've created this new Jupyter notebook tuple, and then I just wrote down an empty tuple, and then I just gave an example of a tuple. Let's just call this coordinates, maybe 1, 2, 3. So don't get confused already, because if it's a list, this is how you would declare the empty list like this, or you could use the list function. So but with the tuple, just be sure that these are the braces, and then you would also maybe have because this is an empty list. Let me just be clear with it. So this is empty list, so that you're sure about the difference. I know in the beginning it's usually confusing, but with time you get used to them. So then list one, it's actually now some elements in that list, maybe 1, 2, and then maybe A. So just recall that. And then if you see here, the tuple instead has this brackets like this. And actually, when you want to list out the elements in the tuple, this is how you do it, not with these boxes here. So that's just for you to be clear about the difference between the tuple and the list. So now let's go ahead and print. So we can just type our print here. Print the empty tuple first. Empty tuple, shift enter. So let me just check the, so it's saying it's not defined. Okay, because I didn't run this, let me run it. So remember, you have to always make sure when you type something like this, you run it first, because it is saying empty tuple is not defined. This is where we defined it, and now when we call it now, we are able to get that empty tuple here like this. For this list, remember, it's those boxes there. So now you can also print this out to see what is inside. So let's print that and see. So I'm going to just copy coordinates, paste here, and then let's do the shift enter. We get our coordinates like that. So there we could also do a type, just to be sure to check, are we dealing with tuples or lists or whatever. So let's verify that by printing the type. Use the type function. So when we run it now, it tells us that we are clearly dealing with a tuple in this case, and this is the class here, tuple. Okay, so we do what we usually do with our data structures. We need to check, can we access elements in a tuple and in that order, so that we are able to say, yes, tuples are ordered or tuples are not ordered. So we've seen that with lists, you can access elements, they are ordered. We've also seen with strings that you can access elements, they are ordered. So it's interesting to note these three things: the order, if the elements are ordered, to check if they are mutable, if you can change a certain element, like change this 1 to maybe 8 or A, and also if you're able to have duplicates, if you can accept maybe 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. So those are the things we have been checking with the other data structure. So you can always go back and review them, take your small notes, and just note at the side each of those three characteristics, and you'll be able to clearly distinguish the different data structures we have been introducing to you. So let's go straight now. Can we access elements in a tuple? So let's try and see. So we can say, maybe we want to print out coordinates, and then we say, now we can use the slice. Remember, the slice is the box here. We say we want the first element, so we want to see, are we able to access this one here? So let's run it. So it's good. We see that the tuple, just like the list, just like the string, they are ordered. So you can be able to get the first element. Remember, Python is a zero index programming language. That's why the first element is 0. We have talked about that in an earlier video, so we are just repeating it here. So this is the other element, and then you can always get maybe another element here. So these are possibilities. What you've been doing with the other data structures, you can also do them here. So you can say, I want to get, just slice out this again. So 0 not touching 3. So it starts with the 0 element, then maybe the first element, the second element. So actually there's no third here. So let's just put 2 and see the, so again, some of these things you just need to play with them so that you become used to. So it takes the 0, the 1, and doesn't touch the 2. So this is actually the 0th index, the first index, and the second index. And remember, you can get the last element as we saw, like that. And you can also get a range of elements, even starting from the maybe the first onwards. We saw this, so we've been looking at this in the previous videos, and so we'll not stress too much on that. So now let us go on to check the next thing. Can we be able to change an element? So maybe change this from 1 to maybe 8. So are tuples mutable? That's what we want to test now to see. So let's bring back our coordinates again. So our coordinates, the 0 element, we know what it is 1. So we want to assign it a value of maybe 8, and then let's print it now and see. Let's just print and see coordinates. So we get an error which says tuple object does not support item assignment. So you can assign an item to a tuple object, so which is just saying that tuples are not mutable. So we noticed that we couldn't change strings. We've also noticed that we can't change elements in the tuple. So this is something to note, the difference between maybe a list and a tuple. You can change elements in a list, but you can't change the elements in a tuple. So tuples are not mutable, while lists are mutable. Strings as well are not mutable. So now that we know, and then let's see if we have now a tuple with duplicate values. Let us see if it will throw an error. So let's put maybe 2 again here, and then we run it. So if we don't get an error, let's print our coordinates and see what's inside. Coordinates, and it maintained the 2 here, 2 2. So we can clearly see that tuples don't have problems with duplicates. So you can have duplicates, it's not a problem. We've seen that strings don't have problems with duplicates, lists don't have problems with duplicates, when we're also seeing that tuples as well don't have problems with duplicates. So that's fine, it's good to know. Let's move on now to methods in your tuples. So let's just say, for example, this tuple again, this is it. Just copy it here, and then we check the methods that are available. So let's go here and then paste here. We run it again, we initialize it, and then we check out coordinates dot, and then we take type. So as you can see, there are just 2 methods that are available to a tuple: count and index. In the last videos, we've seen for lists there are lots of methods. We've seen for strings there are lots of methods. So tuples are generally these data structures that are not too frequently used, and you use them most of the time when you want to store something that is not mutable, will not change. They are very good for storing like longitude, latitude, coordinates, GPS coordinates, storing something that you don't want somebody to change and tamper with. So if you want something to remain immutable, you can play with it as a list, but at the end store it as a tuple, and once it's as a tuple, it doesn't change. Somebody can't change that element as you've seen here. So that is what we use tuples mostly. So as a beginner, you might not use tuples too often more than you use lists or strings, but then it's good to know that it's there, and there are times when you might convert or cast something to a tuple just because you want to keep it immutable. So just note that. That's why you see it has just two methods, and it doesn't have much that we used tuple for. So we can say, for example, tuple.index. So we want to say index like we saw one of those methods. So it is saying what is the one there. So it gives you your 0, and then you can say what is the 3. The index of 3 is 2. So index of 1 was 0. 0 index, remember Python is 0 index, so it starts with 0, 0, 1, and 2. So it's just two methods that you can use with tuples, and the other one we saw was .count. So it's just to know that it exists. You might not use it too much, but you know the difference now between a tuple, a list, and maybe a string. So I hope you've been able to learn the difference between tuple and maybe list and strings. You can always go back and take a look as we continue to explore the basic data structures in Python. So see you next video. Wish you good data luck.